Hello everyone and welcome to the next installment on how to make French disco house. My name's Andy Van from Super Disco Club and Madison Avenue. You may remember a track I made back in 1999 called Don't Call Me Baby. Okay, here's a snippet of what we'll be making today. When making French disco house, the most important thing to do is start with the right sample. And most French disco tracks grabbed hooky samples from 70s disco tracks. So I did some digging and I found a great track to work with. Let's check it out. That little section at the end really sounds good. Yep, that's already sounding very French to me. Let's trim that and check this second sample I found. Yep, I like this section here. Again, let's trim that and then let's listen to some vocal sections. I like this bit at the end. Let's check the next vocal section. Yep, I like that sort of synth squeal sound. Let's also label both of those. Yep, definitely grab this ecstasy line. Yep, I like that end part. Let's trim all the unused bits off those vocal samples. So let's go back to that first disco sample. I'm going to split these and label them and then swap the second half to be the first half. And also then duplicate them 4 times. So let's look at the channel and see what effects I have on it. First is this SDC multi-effects rack, which is simply a low pass, a high pass filter, a utility, delay and reverb. Then we have one of the most important effects in French disco house, and that is side chaining. Here I'm using Kickstart 2 in another SDC rack. And then we have the SDC Daft filter box, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So next, let's get on to side chaining. But before I do, for those not sure, I'll explain exactly what side chaining is. Side chaining is an effect where you want your track or sound to duck away when the kick occurs. You can use something like Kickstart or LFO tool to achieve this. See this waveform of a short audio file here, and then the same waveform after side chaining. You can see the volume dipping down in the audio. Why would you do this? 1, to allow more room for your kick drum to be heard. And secondly, side chaining gives your track a strong, pumping, rhythmic energy. You can hear it here in So Much Love to Give. Okay, back to the track. So here's the sample with no sidechain. And now I'll demonstrate some different sidechain variations so you can hear. Okay, that's great. Now let's grab one of those vocal samples I chopped up earlier. Next, duplicate 4 more bars and grab another sample to put at the end. Okay, now filtering. A lot of French house from the 90s used awesome filtering effects, using classic gear like the Electrics Filter Factory, which I actually own, and the Mutronics Mutator. But those classic pieces of gear are very difficult to purchase now. So I've made an uber cool SDC Daft filter box that mimics a lot of the cool French filtering effects. You can grab this in our Patreon, the link is below, but let's check it out. That is too much fun. Okay, next I want to give the sample a bit more bass. So let's use a technique where you layer the bass. On one channel, you have only the mids and the high EQ of the sample. And on the second channel, you have the same sample, but only use the lower bass frequencies. This allows you to use effects to push just the bass frequencies. I'm using this EQ so you can only hear the bass frequencies. And this SDC bass rack to boost the bass. Check this out with just the EQ on. And now with the SDC bass rack on. That is some serious bass grunt. Now let's turn the top layer back on. Okay, next drums and the kick. Daft Punk and lots of French producers use the 909 drum machine. Ableton has a killer 909 rack, let's use that kick. Also, I'm using a kick driver rack to push that 909 kick just a bit more. Next, hats. I'm using a 909 hats loop here that I really like. Okay, next let's add a clap. Here I'm using a rack of my favourite claps. Next I've layered in a chunky loop to give some energy in the mids. Next I'm adding in a second hat pattern, which is more of a skippy French styled hat loop. Also, let's add some extra bits, a reverse cymbal, and then a short drum roll at the end of each 4 bars. Okay, we're almost done. We've just got that second sample to arrange into the track. Let's loop that 3 times and drop another vocal sample in at the end, and then 3 more repeats of that sample, and then insert the last vocal sample. That is really sounding great. Let's arrange the end section and then add an 8-bar filtered intro with some reverb. Okay, finally, let's listen to the whole thing. That's it, we're done. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope I was able to help any producers wanting to get that French disco sound. If you want this Ableton project and all the SDC racks in it, consider jumping over to our Patreon. The link is below. By the way, if you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about disco house and house music production and want to support us so we can make more videos like this, then please consider joining our Patreon and becoming part of that community. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next video.